Benzinga's NFT show. We've got a good one for you today. Gonna be talking to Carl Jones of Goose Ballers. It's a really exciting project, really cool media ties. I'm excited to get into that interview. Also, later on, we'll be giving an update on Bored Ape Yacht Club, Yuga Labs, what's going on, and maybe does Magic Eden want to partner with the Ape DAO on a new marketplace? All that and more. Don't go anywhere. This is the Roadmap. All right, welcome everyone to the Roadmap. If you're new here, thanks for joining in. Go ahead and subscribe to Benzinga's YouTube channel if you're not already doing so. Smash that like. Let's get things going. I do want to give a shout out before we start today's episode to FTX, the sponsor of today's episode. FTX is one of the largest cryptocurrency exchanges in the world in terms of trading volume and daily users. The FTX app is used by over 6 million people to buy crypto and NFTs. No transaction or withdrawal fees. You can use your phone or computer, and the FTX trading platform offers NFT trading on both the Ethereum and Solana blockchains with no gas fees. To find out more and get signed up for your own FTX account, click on the link in the description below and also in the chat right now. Before we get into today's interview, I want to bring on my co-host and producer, Alyssa. Alyssa, what's going on?
Nothing much, just doing the roadmap. About to do an interview. Good stuff.
Yeah, super excited. Alyssa, you know, we've gone back and forth. We've done a couple of these interviews, you know, with Solana projects, and they tend to actually have higher viewership than the Ethereum projects. So we'll see if that rings true today as well. Super excited about this one. I know we talked about it, a while back, right? Goose Ballers, a new collection on Solana, and this comes from he is the producer of some hits like the Boondocks and Black Dynamite. And now he is in the world of Web3 and NFTs. So super excited to hear what Carl has planned for the NFT space and also for this cool looking Goose Baller character, right? I mean, Alyssa, what do you think of this character and this artwork here?
I freaking love it. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, it jumps off the screen again, like these cool colors, right? This cool, you know, goose character, and we're gonna hear all about the inspiration for that character, that artwork, and also this is another one of those where like it wasn't just someone who was like, NFTs, let me create this brand new character, right? Goose Baller goes back several years. This was an existing character that Carl was able to bring into Web3. I always love that story. You know, when people can do that, they can bring that past experience moving forward. So I'm excited to hear more about that. Alyssa, what do you think? Should we get started with our interview today?
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Well, if you're watching us live, go ahead and smash that like and drop a comment in the chat and let us know you're here. You're ready for Carl to come on. I am super excited to welcome to the Roadmap, Carl Jones. Carl, welcome.
Hey, how are you?
Doing great. How about yourself?
Can't complain.
That's awesome. Well, Carl, you heard me intro you a little bit there. Before we dive into Goose Ballers, you know, I did say you were the producer on the Boondocks and Black Dynamite. Can you just give viewers and listeners a brief description of your background outside of the NFT space?
Yeah, sure. I started out on the Boondocks, and from the Boondocks, I went on to do an animated series called Black Dynamite with Michael Jai White, and it was originally a film that we adapted into a TV series and took to Adult Swim. Since I already had a really good relationship with them, coming off the Boondocks. And from there, I went on to do a one-off, an animated movie for Adult Swim called Freaknik the Musical. So I know it's a weird name, but that was really fun. And since then, I went on to do some stuff with Comedy Central. I produced a show called Legends of Chamberlain Heights with Tiffany Haddish. I also did some live action stuff. I produced a sketch comedy show at Fox with Jamie Foxx and Atheon Crockett. A bunch of more stuff with Adult Swim. I did a show called Laser Wolf, starring Vince Staples, created by Henry Bonsu, and also Jellies with Tyler the Creator. Showrunner on Lasso G. Right now, currently producing a series at HBO Max with Matthew Cherry, the creator of the Oscar-winning film Hair Love, and we're turning that into an animated series called Young Love. Also, was developing a show, animated show called Good Times, based on the 70s live action Good Times with Norman Lear's company, Steph Curry's company, and Seth MacFarlane's company. So yeah, that's and here we are now in Web3.
Here we are. I mean, Carl, that was an impressive resume that you just talked about in the media space, and some big names that you've worked with as well. So now, as you said, here we are. How did we get to NFTs? How did you first hear about Web3 NFTs, and what kind of brought you into that new space?
Well, the first time, I've been hearing just stuff around. I've been hearing people, just been whispers about NFTs, for years. But I think the first time I actually had like a real conversation about NFTs and the possibilities of NFTs was probably maybe about 2 years or 2.5 years ago. Ben Willis, who's part of WAGMI Beach, he and I worked together on a show that I didn't mention. It's called Sugar and Toys. It was an animated show we did for Fuse Network. And Super Duper Kyle was the host of that show, who was also one of Ben's clients, right? So that's how I met Ben on that show. And we just, connected and we stayed in touch. And I did like an animated music video for him, for Yuna, the artist Yuna. And so we just had like a really good rapport. And one day he called me up and he said, look, we're venturing into some, into the Web3 space, and we're talking about doing some NFTs and stuff like that. And I just really couldn't wrap my head around it. And he did a good job of explaining it, but I only had the concept of them being, pieces of digital art. And at the moment, I really couldn't see a real need for me to do that, because I was just looking at it as digital art. I wasn't really familiar with the utility, and it was still early on too. So there wasn't, so they were also getting their feet wet for the first time. So anyways, we stopped talking, I guess, for about a year and a half. And I was honestly going through I was getting a lot of pushback from the networks for 2 projects that I was working on at the time. And it just started to dawn on me that this was during the pandemic, and, we were, luckily I was able to produce 2 projects at one time, right? Because, we were doing it via Zoom, and both of those projects were really good projects, but I can tell there's been a huge shift when it comes to, what we can do creatively, because a lot of the networks are starting to operate more from a place of fear, because, cancel culture, and also there's just more sensitivity to how we portray Black characters on screen, which I'm also, not only am I cognizant of it, I also care about it, but I also think that there was a lot of overcorrecting that was taking place, in television and film, because of the lack of representation of Black people, right? So then it put us in, as creatives, it put us in a place where it was really difficult to do comedy, because you have to create flawed characters, but yet, we're also responsible for showing these very, perfect, polished, great examples of Black people on TV. So it just put comedy. It was really difficult to just, to mine for jokes and do comedy. So I was really feeling a lot of pressure at that time from the networks and seeking some creative freedom, So I called Ben back up and I was like, hey, tell me about this NFT stuff again. And he said, well, it's a good thing that you called now. He said, because, we've actually, grown since the last conversation I had with you, and we've had some success. We launched this project called Catalina Wells. And, so he sent me some stuff. And from that night on, I was spending like all my days and nights just studying and studying stuff, because I was really I was amazed at the community that they built around this project and how these people became like evangelists for this property, and that's what really got me excited. And then being able to use that as a launch pad to build a brand and have the creative freedom that they needed to tell the type of stories that they wanted to tell was the thing that really caught my attention.
So he got you into NFTs, and then you went down the rabbit hole of spending hours and hours and days of looking at NFTs. And now here we have Goose Ballers. So I read on the website a description, but for anyone out there who doesn't know about, this Bubblegoose coat, tell us about how your background kind of played into the inspiration for this character.
Yeah, so in my neighborhood, when I was growing up, which was actually like during the crack epidemic, so there was a lot of people were selling drugs, and the Bubblegoose coat was what I saw all the ballers in the neighborhood wearing, right? So it became almost like a status symbol to me. You know what I mean? Like it represented at that time like somebody who was taking control of their life and turning a bad situation to a good situation, despite how they were doing it, of course, right? But even with that being said, I could speak all day about just the context of that. But the point is, I used to draw all these characters in my sketchbook that had these Bubblegoose coats because it was kind of aspirational, and it was something that was dope, and it was cool to me. And so it always like made a way into my sketches. But one day I decided to draw this goose with a Bubblegoose coat on, right? And that character just kind of stayed with me since I was a kid. And it just, for some reason, it just kept reoccurring in my sketchbooks, and it just would not go away. So I knew there was something special about it, but I couldn't really put my finger on it. And then I had an opportunity to explore doing something with this character as an animated series with Adult Swim. And this was right after Black Dynamite got canceled for being too controversial, I think. So Adult Swim still wanted to work with me. So they said, look, well, what else do you have? Just something that's not as risque, right? So I said, well, I do have this other show. I have this other idea I've been messing around with. And it was called Bubblegoose and Juice at the time. So it was this Bubblegoose character, but his best friend, he had a best friend that was a juice bottle, right? that had like a brown paper bag over his head. And so I started developing this with Cartoon Network. And we just had creative differences, right? Like with Adult Swim Cartoon Network. So we had some creative differences. They were, asking me to go down a road that I really didn't want to go down and pull back away from stuff that I was really passionate about. And an important thing to note, at this point in time, I was actually homeless. So I was literally living in the Cartoon Network office that I was making my pilot at, right? And no one knew it. So what I would do is, like, early in the morning, I would wake up and I would leave the office before people would come in, right? And then it was in Burbank, so I would go to the Burbank Mall, and I would do laps with a lot of the old people that was in the mall, and then I would come into the office and pretend like I just came from home. But I was doing this while I was working on the pilot, and the reason why I brought that up is because when we were having creative differences, it came down to me making a decision, right? Like I was homeless at the time, so I'm thinking, so I could address these notes and do what they're asking me to do, and still have a pilot and a place to lay my head, or I can tell them no and take this character and go find some other place to live. And that's what I chose to do. So I walked away with it, and some years passed. And, when I talked to Ben that second time, I thought that maybe this is the way to reintroduce this character to the world.
Carl, that's such a inspiring story. I know people in the chat are loving it. Also, shout out to the mall walkers. I used to work in a restaurant located in a mall, and oh man, are those mall walkers? They are serious about their business, and it always cracks me up. I'm here in Michigan, and we could have, you know, a foot or 2 feet of snow out there. I'm like, oh man, I have to drive in this blizzard to get to work today. And I get there and there's all these cars in the parking lot. And sure enough, it's the mall walkers.
Yeah.
You can't miss a day of walking in the mall. So I had to share that too. But I'll turn it over to Alyssa here with the question for you.
Well, first off, I wanted to say, like, your background is, like Chris said, super inspiring, and I can just, like, imagine, like, a young artist hearing that. Like, it's really, really nice to hear, you know? Like, you're cool. But I wanted to ask you about, like, the art, like, what your favorite trade is with the Bubblegoose Ballers.
Yeah, man, it's hard to say, and I think it changes from week to week, but probably the college dropout, like the teddy bear head, like that's probably like my favorite trait. And then the Shark Tanks, the shoes with the gold metallic.
Oh,
gold.
this one? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, those ones. Oh my
Yeah.
god. I was going through when I was making today's thumbnail, I was just going through like the highest last sale, and like all of the traits, like I just love all of them. They're so funky and like colorful and just cool.
Thank you. Yeah, I was inspired a lot by a lot of cartoons in the 90s, really. Like I was a big fan of like Rocco's Modern Life and like Cow and Chicken and the, you know, Johnny Bravo and like all of those shows from that era. Even the Nickelodeon stuff like was really cool at that time. Yeah, SpongeBob, like all of that stuff was like really fun, like where they would really push the shapes of these characters and really get creative, like with the expressions. Like Ren and Stimpy also, like they would do like really weird shaped eyes and not be afraid to like push the faces into some really, you know, weird places, right? And so I wanted to create a character that, you know, when we do the show, you know, we would have that same capability.
Nice. Do you have any hidden traits in these?
No, we don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, these traits are so cool. Like Alyssa said, I mean, going through them, you can spend hours just looking at these cool colors too, and this wonderful character that you've created. You mentioned, you know, WAGMI Beach. They did Catalina Whales. And you are now kind of under that umbrella. So what does that mean? What does that relationship kind of mean going forward? How do you work with that company, and what could it mean for Bubblegoose Ballers in the future?
Yeah, I mean, we're still exploring, you know, what the future looks like. But I mean, I will just say, like, I mean, they, you know, first of all, they're amazing. They're incredible. Like each one of the members of this crew, man, they all bring something really dope and unique to the table. And they taught me a lot about the space. Love and I, who was my co-founder, Love Barnett. You know, they already had an infrastructure in place, and also they built a really strong community around Catalina Whales that was very, very supportive of Bubblegoose Ballers. So, you know, shout out to the whole community and WAGMI Beach for, you know, for even like, for number one, introducing this project to their community. But second of all, like the way their community embraced us was just like, I mean, it's literally like a family, you know, like, and I know, because I know people talk about community in this space a lot, like in a very cliche way, you know, but like this is like a really, really strong family oriented, tight knit community. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. So you have this quote pinned on your Twitter right now, and it is from the one and only Walt Disney. It says, "I only hope that we don't lose sight of one thing, that it was all started by a mouse." And you've talked about kind of creating the next Disney, the next Pixar. Tell us a little bit about what that means. How do you get to that finish line of creating this new media company, all kind of brought together by NFTs, Web3, and Bubblegoose Ballers?
Yeah, so I think I started this project thinking that we would make a pilot, possibly a movie, do some toys and some other giveaways, for the community and some merch and things of that nature, the things that you typically see with a lot of NFT projects, right? But I always had this vision of doing kind of like, an adult animated Pixar type company, you know what I mean, or Disney, right? And I never really put the two together, in terms of like how to bridge the NFT space or the Web3 with those dreams of where I wanted to go with my Hollywood career. But the more that I started to dig into the space and started to understand the technology, I realized that this technology could be used to do more than just create this this NFT project or launch this NFT project. We can build brands, but not only build a brand, but we can build a studio, right, that the community participates in and has some stake in. And you know what I mean? And I think, to me, it's using the blockchain as a I would say more of a tool, to launch IP and to build brands is more important to the future of where entertainment is going right now, than NFTs. You know what I mean? Like NFTs per se. I mean, and I know NFTs have kind of been stigmatized, but I understand like the reason for that is, when you look at the success of some of these projects that have they're monster projects like Bored Ape is they taught us all how to build communities, right? And they caught lightning in a bottle, and they created a project. They created a project in a property that was a phenomenon. It was just like an enigma, right? But part of the problem with that is now this expectation to do that again. At least from my perspective, I see I see people sometimes they might tweet like, hey, you got to jump on Bubblegoose Ballers because it could be the next blue chip or the next Bored Ape. And I don't really want to look at it like that because I think beyond the NFT, right? What we're trying to do is build a legacy that can come from an actual studio model, right? And I think the studio, that aspect of it got me even more excited, because then I saw that this could be what I think Hollywood needs to understand. Number one, the power of the technology in the space, right? And it will eventually start to reshape the way that they do business and the way that they treat creatives, which is also really important to me, because a lot of times we don't really have the leverage, to one, keep the creative integrity of our projects, but also just financially, we find ourselves working to survive, not working to actually create. You know what I mean? And I see this in success if we are able to utilize the blockchain to launch a studio model that will also create freedom for other creatives and allow them to build brands and also leverage that success into Hollywood and allow Hollywood to participate in those IPs, but in a more decentralized way. Then that to me is that's the ultimate end all be all for me,
Awesome. Carl, I want to highlight a couple comments here in the chat. So we got one from Crypto the Only. I love the whole Web3 2 and 3 community and love how Bubblegoose Ballers and Carl Jones are giving people like me insight on how the whole animation industry works. Great comment there. And Carl, yeah, I mean, I see you being an inspiration. And Alyssa hit on that as well. And then we got to highlight this comment here from Night for Humanity. You're the producer of Boondocks. Thank you for the laughs. The animation of that show was top notch. The nights in high school I spent watching it, so cool. Carl, I mean, what do you think of those comments? People here loving you know, connecting those old TV shows you did now with what you're doing going forward.
I love it, man. I mean, it's still you know, I mean, it's you know, I don't know what to say a lot of times because you gotta understand, like when we did the Boondocks, there wasn't a whole lot of people that were part of that show that had a whole lot of TV experience, right? Like, you know, we were just, you know, we were good friends and we were hanging out and we would, you know, I mean, it was hard work, but like, you know, we were doing stuff that we thought was funny and you know, we created a voice with that show that was very specific to just like a small group of people, right? And we had no idea. It's not like you know, when we were doing the show, we were thinking like we're gonna make some kind of cultural, you know, phenomenon or anything like that. It was just like we were just doing what was personal to us. So when you know when you can see like how it's impacted people to this day, especially how long ago that was that we launched that series and just seeing how it stood the course of time, like that's amazing to me. It's just like I get overwhelmed by just the feeling of how that's impacted people. And I still, even with the community that's supporting Goose Ballers right now, like, you know, I'll get in the Discord or we'll do spaces sometimes and just to hear the love and the appreciation for it is just like it's just amazing. And so, and this is why I also want to give back. Like I feel like not even really give back just for that, you know, but it's more about like now we're able to create the same kind of content, right? With that same type of creative freedom, with the community backing us and supporting us and participating in it, you know, both creatively and financially. And I just think that's really dope. I mean, because if it wasn't for that community of supporters that we had, you know, like we had a cult following for years. But if it wasn't, you know, which is the equivalent to me of a community, right? And if we didn't have that community of diehard fans, the show would never be what it is. So it's weird looking back how nobody who supported the show and made it what it was today was able to participate in this success truly and profit from it. Like, you know what I mean? Like you should be able to.
Definitely. I want to talk a little bit about your animation studio, Martian Blueberry, that you started with Love Barnett. Can you just talk a little bit about this animation studio? What does it mean for you? And also what can it mean for Goose Ballers down the road?
Yeah, so Martian Blueberry came about out of a need, right? Because, you know, having worked in the industry for so long, the majority of the stuff that I've made has been very, very culturally specific. And we always run into a problem when it comes to translating the culture to these animation studios that we work with in the past, right? And that goes for domestic studios as well as the ones that we work with overseas, right? So I realized that, you know, I mean, it's no secret there is a lack of diversity in the whole industry, right? But when it comes to, you know, understanding the cultural nuances, that can make or break a joke, and it can also take away from the authenticity of the material that you're making, right? So like I was thinking, you know, long ago I wanted to do this, but I just really wasn't in the right position to do it. So I found the right partners and the right artists all over the world. And that's the other thing about the pandemic. Like, you know, since everything kind of shut down, you know, animation production was still happening because the process is so compartmentalized. Like people started working with artists all over the world. Like, so you could literally launch a virtual studio from anywhere, right? And that's exactly what we did, right? So we have some really, really talented artists in Brazil that we're working with. We have some artists in Africa, you know, some in various parts of the US and Canada. And but we're able to handpick certain individuals that could capture those nuances and do the things that we need to get us to stand out in an industry that lacks that diversity.
So, Carl, you were a speaker at VeeCon. I was able to attend VeeCon, wonderful event put together, of course, by Gary Vee. connecting all the V friends in the NFT community. What was that experience like for you? How does VeeCon compare to maybe some past events you've done in the like Web 2 and media space for now Web 3 and NFTs?
Well, it's funny because I made a joke when we were on the panel. When we did our panel there, right? I was looking out and looking out at the crowd, and it was weird because usually I'm doing Comic-Con panels and people are like dressed like, you see like everyone's dressed like Pokemon or Rick and Morty, like, you know what I mean? So it was kind of weird looking out and seeing a whole audience of people dressed like regular people. But no, it was fun, and it was definitely enlightening, and I met a lot of really interesting people that I mean, just the innovation that's happening in the space is like really, really inspiring. And that more than anything, that's what I enjoyed, like meeting new people and hearing about their projects and stuff that they're doing. It's like I got a chance to see people coming from all walks of life and different careers, right? And finding a way to take those talents or those tools in their career and in the things that they did in their former careers and bring them to Web3 and find like innovative ways to integrate them into the space. Like that was the stuff that was really interesting to see. You know what I mean? And then also just seeing all these people brought together, and you know what I mean? Like it was like there wasn't a lot of dividing lines, really. You know, it was like everybody had, even though it was Gary Vee's event, so he was Jesus there, right? Everybody was, it was definitely a praise Gary Vee festival, but everyone it was all love. It's like just I think everyone's just like really excited to see so many people stepping into this space, and they're very, very supportive, regardless of you're on Solana or Ethereum. Because we were the only Solana that I knew of. We were the only people there that was like, representing, Solana, but we were still embraced with a lot of love,
Carl, any favorite panels that you got to watch, or any celebrities that maybe you met for the first time? I know we got to hear like Snoop speak. We got to see Wyclef perform at night. I don't know if you got to, take part in any of that because you were so busy, meeting people within your own community. But any highlights for you, like as a fan or the outside looking in?
Well, I did get a chance to meet Gary Vee for a quick second, so that was cool. But I tell you, the best highlight, honestly, was, so I'm I'm on the floor and I'm talking to somebody, right? And this old white woman walks up to me and she goes, "Oh my God, I haven't seen you in ages." And I said, "Who are you?" She was like, It's Jill. It's Jill. You don't remember me?" And I'm like, "No, I don't." She said, "Wyclef." "You don't remember me, Wyclef?" And she was so happy. I did not have the heart to tell her I wasn't Wyclef, so I rolled with it.
Did she get a picture with you and everything?
Yes.
Or
she's like, "Do you remember Jazzy Joyce?" "Of course you do. Look, we need to take a picture so I can send it to Jazzy Joyce. She is going to flip." And I said, "All right."
Oh my goodness. Oh, that is a great story. Yeah, I was fortunate enough. I got to attend VeeCon with the media pass, which got me, some access backstage, got to interview some different celebrities and community founders. And I mean, that Wyclef concert that first night was one of the highlights for me. I mean, I grew up listening to his music, and then to be able to be that close to the stage was really cool. But you being, mistaken for Wyclef, definitely going to be a memory I'm going to remember now hearing about with VeeCon as well. Carl, speaking of celebrities, a lot of NFT projects, some start with, marketing, trying to get celebrities on board. Others grow organically, and then celebrities kind of find the project and come in later, which is kind of what we have happening now. Bubblegoose Ballers, you've been doing these Twitter spaces, and we had Seth Green on a recent one, and we have the one and only Tracy Morgan coming on one tomorrow. Can you just talk a little bit about what it means to have Seth Green and Tracy Morgan on board, and kind of what those relationships could mean for maybe the show down the road?
Yeah. Well, a lot of the guests that I'm inviting into these spaces, they're not real familiar with NFTs, right? Uh, Seth Green obviously is, as you know, but really for me, it was just, an opportunity to introduce the community to some really talented people that I respect, that I've worked with over the years, and getting some behind the scenes, to some of their favorite TV shows or films. You know what I mean? Like, just getting, some of these stories that you would never hear. And a lot of people like Tracy Morgan, for example, like, I mean, he's a he's a force of nature, right? And just, he's going to bring a lot of fun, but he's also he's a very how can I say it? A very passionate person, right? And he cares about people a lot, And I think like a lot of people don't get a chance to see that side of him. Like they just see the crazy side of Tracy. But I think like getting to know, getting to see the crazy and the fun of who these people are, but also being able to have some real conversations about things that, just regular life and just regular stuff, But these actors and there would be some producers and writers and directors that we'll have on the show, but all of them I have a lot of respect for. They have a lot of respect for me, and we definitely plan on working together in the future. And I definitely want to bring their talents to Goose Ballers in some kind of way, So that's definitely the plan.
Carl, I want to turn to the roadmap for a minute. After all, that's the name of our show, right? It's a term that's used by a lot of NFT projects, right? About what's to come, what's in the future. And on that original roadmap, we've got different things, right? The community writers room, storyboards, partner announcements. Also, you mentioned earlier kind of those vinyl toys. And then we have the pilot down the road. Can you just talk a little bit about the timeline on some of these items, maybe vinyl toys and the pilot? What are we looking at in terms of those items hitting?
Yeah, that's the that's the tough part.
The golden question that everybody wants to know, right?
I know. The difficult thing is animation takes so long. It's just a long process. Every show that I made, I remember like during the downtime when we weren't having, when new episodes weren't coming out, I would always get the question, did you guys get canceled? I knew you was going to get canceled. Like, no, we're just making the other season. So a lot of people aren't aware of how long it actually takes to do animation. So what I plan to do and what we started to do is really, create the type of transparency that will allow the community to at least be involved every step of the way, right? So they can see the progress that's being made, on the TV show with the toys, with the Bubblegoose coats that we're doing with Fubu. Like, so like if we get some designs, we're sharing some of those designs. Once we get the storyboards, we get the animatics, all of that stuff is being shared with the community. Because I also feel like trust is something that I have to earn. It's not something that they owe me. They don't know. We just met each other. You know what I mean? So, and I know there's been projects where, there's rug pulls happen all the time. And so my goal, our goal, as a team, we're trying to include the community every step of the way. Now, in terms of actual timelines, I mean, look, we would love to have the Bubblegoose coat. We'd love to have it done by winter time. We'll see, because we don't have a clear date on when we would have the final delivery, because we're still in the creative process of nailing down the designs and stuff. The animated pilot, that schedule is being moved around a little bit, but I don't want to answer that right now. Good, but it won't take as long as a pilot would typically take. And the toys. So we're in talks right now with Good Smile. I don't know if you're familiar with Good Smile, but they're this huge Japanese anime toy company. Actually, they're in the US and in Japan, but they do some really, really, really dope anime toys. And they've already said they're down, like they're in 100% to do the Bubblegoose toys. So we just gotta. It's been convention season, so they've been all they've been running all over the place, like doing conventions and stuff. But as soon as I think they have like 2 more conventions in Japan, and then we're going to start nailing down the specifics of that, and then we'll have a concrete deadline. But I will keep everyone posted for everything.
That's awesome. Yeah, I always love hearing about toys. I have 3 boys, and they love that part of the NFT space. So even if, you know, a Bubblegoose Ballers show is maybe aimed at adults and not at kids, they're still going to love the toys. So that's something that I'm excited for down the road.
Awesome. We also got comic books. We're doing comic books also.
That's perfect too. They love that too.
I'm actually curious, how long does it take to animate like one 20-minute episode?
Yeah. So well, I'll answer it this way first. So for an entire season, right? Let's say if you do, let's say if you do 10 episodes of a 22-minute animated show, it typically takes somewhere between 62 to 72 weeks, right? So roughly like around a year and a half. The Boondocks was about 15 episodes, which took us about 2 years to make each season, right? And the reason why I answered that way is just because per episode, like we usually have like, because it's like a waterfall schedule that we're using where like, you know, we go into production. Let's say we go into production on 3 episodes at one time. Well, at one point, all the episodes are in production at once, but they're in various stages of production, right? So, you know, we might be writing one is being designed, while one is being storyboarded, while one is in post, and one is being, you know what I'm saying? So like it's a it's a schedule that makes no sense at all. Honestly, it's like it's an impossible schedule, and so we're literally trying to like, you know, like force a square into a triangle, you know, with these schedules. But typically, like for one episode, I mean, you could be looking at like, I don't know, like 7 to 8 months.
That's wild. I looked into like learning animation myself because I'm also an artist. But like I just see how long some of these things take, and I know it's just the attention to detail and the process in itself. Like it just takes a while, and a lot of people don't understand that who don't create, you know. I wanted to ask, why did you choose Solana for this project?
Well, one, I love the idea of not having gas fees, and I love that it was environmentally friendly. But the other thing is, you know, WAGMI Beach has been, you know, working in the Solana space already, and they had a lot of great things to say, you know, about Solana. And I mean, that was really my first interest. I'll say this, like I mean, look, my whole career, I've kind of done stuff that was, I guess, a little against the grain, or wasn't, you know, we didn't take the traditional or the more popular route usually. Like, and so I knew I had people that was telling me like, you know, Ethereum might be better for me, and you know, because, you know, my credentials, my credits and stuff, and the success that I could have on that blockchain. But to be honest, the thing that really got me inspired was the community. Like when I started looking at the communities around those Solana projects, like, you know, like D-Gods and Thugbirds, and even like I said with Catalina Wells, I don't know, it was just like it just seemed, and I could be wrong because I you know, like I said, I was new to the space, so I don't know if I didn't do a whole lot of research on the Ethereum side, but I do know that like there was definitely like a vibe in a very you know cult-like family, you know, atmosphere that I really liked a lot. You know what I'm saying? It was very intimate, and you know, that's like I said, from my own personal experience and my perspective, being someone new to the space, you know.
Yeah, I agree. Like when you look at the Solana project community versus like Ethereum, there is a vibe in the Solana community, and I totally understand what you're talking about. Yeah. About the project, what are you most excited about going forward with Goose Ballers?
Man, I'm just excited about all the possibilities, because, as we engage more and more with the community, you start understanding like the value that people bring to the table, even creatively. You know what I'm saying? Which was something I never factored in before. But I personally, I feel like, and I don't want to get too winded on this because I do feel real passionate about this, but like I feel like the more technology evolves, the more time it frees up people to be creative, right? Because more stuff is being done, by computers and technology. And I say that because, when because I think everybody has a story, or everybody is creative, and they just may be using their creativity to survive, because most of us are in survival mode. So I think like the average person that's even like working at McDonald's, right? They'd be super creative, and they might be creative in how they hustle and find ways to pay their bills. But it's rare that they have the opportunity to actually like use their creativity to create, right? And so there's something really dope about creating the space where you can help people free themselves financially, but also free themselves so that they can be more creative, because I do value their creative input as well, and because I'm hearing some of the ideas that just get like, just even tweets that people within the community make, like I'm laughing, I'm like crying laughing all the time, you know what I'm saying? Like in the Discord, they have me cracking up, because there's so many funny, talented people that I know is just untapped talent, So part of my excitement is finding untapped talent within the community, you know what I mean? And also being able to help people free themselves up to be more creative.
I love that.
Yeah, awesome, Carl. That was we had a question here from Crypto the Only in the chat. Is the community going to be able to contribute in the writing? Which I think you just touched on a little bit. And also, I know that's in the roadmap. So I'm excited to see how that all plays out. Carl, before we let you go, you mentioned getting into NFTs, over a year ago. Are there any other NFT projects that you hold? Do you follow along with the story? Do you own any Catalina whales, since you're kind of, parallel with them? Anyone you'd like to shout out? Not financial advice here on the show.
Yeah, well, I definitely want to shout out Catalina whales. And yes, I am a Catalina whale holder. Thug Birds too. I think Thug Birds is really dope. I don't own a DGOT, but I think that's another dope project. OK Bears is dope. I think there's a lot of cool stuff, man. Like yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I mean, it's just so amazing to me. I would love to do some stuff with them. And then yeah.
Sorry, I threw you off.
No, I just but that's the thing that's it inspires me to to I don't know, to be more creative and try to like I look for projects that are also like finding I don't know, like unique ways to communicate their brand. You know what I'm saying? Or when I do see that they're looking past just the generative art pieces, and they're literally building a brand in a real way. Like those are the projects that really get me inspired. Like, to just see like innovative ways that they're using the technology, and see that they do have like a real vision, and it's not just like I'm selling a product. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Carl, this has been great. Remind everyone the Twitter Spaces with Tracy Morgan tomorrow. What time?
It's tomorrow at 2:00.
Is that
PST? No, wait.
Okay, Pacific.
Yeah,
I was going to say, I thought I saw 5 p.m. Eastern time.
5 p.m. Eastern. 2
Perfect,
p.m.
guys. So anyone listening or watching, 2 p.m. Pacific time, 5 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow. Goose Ballers, Twitter Spaces with Tracy Morgan. Don't miss it. Carl, this has been great. I loved hearing that inspiring story from you, and I look forward to following this project, and we hope to have you back on the show soon to get an update from you as well.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. What a fun interview, right, Alyssa? Like, that was so cool to hear. Carl's background, right? How he created this project. I mean, the dude's a legend, right? I mean, like I use IMDb for articles I write about, you know, movies and TV shows. And if you go look at his IMDb, like you see the shows he's done, and everyone in the chat pointing out as well, you know, Boondocks, Black Dynamite, and others. Like so cool now to see him in the Web3 space. And again, not financial advice, but when you look at projects and you want to bet on founders, like here's one right here who's got the experience, right? So like I
Yeah,
feel
like
pretty confident.
yeah, like when backing it up back to Robotos when we're all saying we're bullish on Pablo. I'm bullish on Carl Jones. He's
Yeah.
freaking cool.
Yeah, and like I said, like this is one that like I'm gonna show my kids this artwork later, show them the different NFTs, and be like, hey, there's gonna be toys of this, and it's gonna blow their minds, right? Because like that's what they think of, right? Is like toys, and is there gonna be a show? Is there gonna be a movie? That's what they ask about any NFT project I show them. So like Carl said at the end there, you know, the difference between, you know, just some generative art projects and building out brands. And I mean, Alyssa, how cool is it that on Twitter, like his pinned tweet again is a quote from Walt Disney talking about Mickey Mouse. And we've said the same thing over and over about Gary Vee, right? Trying to build V friends and calling it his Disney, his Mickey Mouse that he is going to build over the next years. Carl's got that same vision, and I mean that's what I want to see happen in the NFT space is these brands being built, right? Not just art, not just a PFP, a whole brand being created to drive through the finish line.
Yeah, when you see things like that's when you can really tell like they're there to actually create and be here for us, the community, and just vibe with us, you know, instead of just, hey, I want your money. Take this art, you know. This is freaking, I love it. I love projects like this. I love artists like Carl. I love it. Love it.
Definitely. Well, guys, if you have not already done so, make sure you smash the like, share this interview. Carl Jones from Goose Ballers, and of course, the producer of the Boondocks and Black Dynamite and others in the works too. Like he started rattling off some of these other titles, and I'm like, oh man, like this dude has got so much going on. Alyssa, we're running out of time. Just a couple things to get to for news here. I don't know if you saw this one, but last night I happened to see like a bunch of tweets about this new NFT project. It was popping up on like Icy Tools and some others. It did some huge volume last night. It is DigiDaigaku, 2022 unique characters developed by Limit Break, a company founded by world famous game designers Gabriel Layden and Halbert Nagawa. This one was not even on my radar, Alyssa. And now, okay, so we're at 1.99. It was 1.85 when I put this in the doc earlier. I don't remember what the mint cost was, but it was below 0.3. Alyssa, I actually saw this last night at like 0.4, 0.5. And I actually almost bought one because of the momentum, right? I'm not one to really normally do that, but I saw so many tweets about this. I saw people saying like it was trending, all this, and I was like, part of me wants to buy one. And look at what 0.5 would have gotten me today. And they are unrevealed, so there's still a potential catalyst. But looking at that cover photo, Alyssa, what do you think of the artwork, and had you heard of this project at all?
I have not heard of it, and looking at the picture, the artwork, it's anime. I don't know what to tell you. It's like going after the anime vibe and the NFTs, and I'm actually, I don't know how. It's a stealth drop, and it's just trending. Yeah. Okay, like I don't know.
So Alyssa, I mean, we go through cycles, and like, remember for a while we had the free mint cycle, right? But a lot of those free mints were still kind of pre-announced, right? And it was like, hey, here's how you get on the white list, the allow list to get your free mint, right? So like, you might not even get a free mint if you're not on the list. And now, are we back maybe to these stealth mints where like the project launches a Twitter, they launch a Discord, They don't do an allow list, and just all of a sudden, boom, it drops. And sure enough, I think this was last night. So I missed it, and this is what happened. So maybe we get some more stealth drops going forward.
Yeah, I can probably go into a huge tangent asking everyone like, like, would you rather like do stealth drops, do the whole free mint thing, or just do what everyone else is doing, release a massive roadmap? Like,
yeah,
we should do a whole episode on that. Honestly.
We should. Yeah, we should. That's a good call out. Alyssa, the other thing I want to get to, since we talked about Solana so much today, Magic Eden, we talked about yesterday, right? That they are adding Ethereum to their platform and really trying to take on OpenSea, right?
Yeah.
What better way to take on OpenSea than this new plan that they have to develop a marketplace for Yuga Labs? They submitted a proposal with the ApeCoin DAO, where they have said they will build the ApeCoin DAO marketplace, which will be the home for ape coin holders to buy and sell NFTs, including Bored Apes, Mutant Apes, Bored Ape Kennel Club, all inside of the DAO's native home at a 0.75% transaction fee. No cost to the DAO. They said that they would build this marketplace on their own. They put out a thread on Twitter, and they said, here's our vision. They said they've reached out to countless apes over Twitter. They've taken time to meet the communities. And they're also going to lower fees, right? So if you trade with Ape, you actually get a discount. And again, they're going to do all of this up front if that proposal passes in the next 3 to 4 weeks. Alyssa, what do you think? Like, is this... do you think it happens? And also, like, is this the move that Magic Eden needed to take on OpenSea head to head?
I mean, it is a pretty good, solid move on their part, and it looks good. I have a question about Magic Eden, actually. Whenever you go onto their website, does it freaking work for you? Because it's not working for me.
It is pretty slow when I go there usually. So
that's my main issue I'm having right now.
Maybe something that they could work on with that new funding round that they did earlier this year. But
no, every time I try to look,
I mean, you can see it on the screen right there. Like, it's not perfect. But like I said yesterday, I actually think they have a shot of taking at least part market share from OpenSea. And as I said, like, Alyssa, a lot of these newer marketplaces, they try to partner with like a celebrity or something, right? So like GameStop, did some exclusive NFTs. Coinbase did some. Even LimeWire, did the Soulja Boy and the Travis Barker drop. Those exclusives with one person only take you so far. Partnering with Yuga Labs, like, that gets you not only Bored Ape, but all the other Yuga Labs assets. Maybe it gets you CryptoPunks down the road, right? Like, Larva Labs has their own marketplace. Maybe you're able to build that in as well. Like, I just feel like, I don't know if this proposal will pass. I'm curious to see what some ape holders have said, but they said they reached out to some ape holders. So I feel like they're not going in blind. And like, if they reached out to ape holders and they were like, no, like, we will never use Magic Eden, I feel like they probably would have walked, right? Like, there's got to be some sort of interest.
Yeah, I think there should be interest. And like, I don't know. They need to... This is my opinion. Please, I want to look at your website. That's my only thing. You can't really or get on top with OpenSea. You can't even look at anything. Is this just me?
No, it's not. I definitely went there when I was working on the dock earlier, and I couldn't get it to load.
Okay, cool.
So not just you.
Okay, cool. But if they fix that, and then the apes are on board and all that, yeah. And then partnerships and celebrities, you got to be strategic with it, I think, and keep it coming, and work on things together, and maybe they'll get there with with OpenSea.
Definitely. Well, Alyssa, this was a fun episode. Like, I have been looking forward to talking to Carl Jones for a while, ever since
Yes.
Goose Ballers dropped. That project looks amazing. That artwork is sweet. I can't wait to see a show. I can't wait to see toys. Can't wait to see comic books, like all this cool stuff, right?
Yeah.
I'm excited for that. I hope everyone takes time to check out Goose Ballers and also that Twitter Spaces tomorrow with Tracy Morgan. I have a feeling that's going to be pretty entertaining, given Tracy Morgan and how outspoken he can be. Alyssa, we'll be back tomorrow. I think maybe we should do a couple more Would You Rathers.
Sure.
Because I think the chat enjoyed that. So stay tuned, everyone. Tune into the roadmap tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern time. In the meantime, don't go anywhere. You got pre-market prep at the close coming up at 3:30. Talking about all the top movers for stocks and cryptos today. We did get that CPI number. There is a lot to talk about if you follow stocks and crypto. So stay tuned for that as well. Alyssa, anything else?
Follow us on socials, and if you feel like shooting us like what we should talk about or like input on how to fix or improve the show, feel free to message me or Chris on our Twitter social media accounts, and we'll listen.
Yeah, Alyssa said all socials, but I got to shout out Twitter real quick for a minute, which of course Alyssa helps manage our Twitter account. So I know she probably doesn't want to give the shout out here, but we are nearing the 250,000 follower milestone. We are super close, Alyssa.
Look at it.
So come on, guys, help us out. Help us get to that nice 250K followers number, and then we'll grow from there. But let us get that win. And I think that's pretty exciting to reach that milestone.
Yes, it is.
And then
yeah, we'll do something special. Yeah, we're gonna do something special as soon as we hit that 250K. We'll do something special for you guys.
Definitely. And yeah, we got White Sneakers in the chat. Make sure you get your Bubblegoose. Yeah, great interview. So cool. I mean, Alyssa, like Carl's background, just crazy inspiring.
Amazing.
You're an artist. I know you really loved that breakdown too. So I'm so happy to have him on the show today as well.
Yes, it's super inspiring for an artist, and I can imagine if like a young artist especially listens to that interview. I'm gonna send this to a few people actually.
Yeah,
it's gonna help.
Definitely. All right. Well, that's going to do it for us today. Stay tuned for pre-market prep at the close, and we will catch everyone tomorrow.